giving you guys something you're not going to find anywhere else in media. 3 woke lefties debating the Conservative Party.
Yes.
Okay? Intersectionality on fleek.
But fair.
Yeah.
Fair across the board, man.
If Kemi Badenoch or James Cleverly wins, I think for the first time in terms of one of England's major political parties, there will be a black leader. What does that say about the country if that does happen? Or maybe we can wait until it does happen, or if it happens, to discuss it. What would it mean, I guess, hypothetically, for that to occur?
It would mean that you've got a black person basically prepared to espouse racist policy in order to curry favour with just over 20% of the public.
Not a step forward?
No, not
because
at all.
I felt that many, not all, of people from Asian communities up and down the country, especially in the media, I think, let me take that back. Asian voices in the media, even ones that weren't supportive of Rishi Sunak, said, listen, I don't like the guy, don't like the party, but let's just take a moment. We've got a South Asian Prime Minister. You know, that is an important thing for all of the people from Asian communities who were treated with racism in the 70s and 80s.
Can I ask you something?
No, listen, I'm just telling you how they felt.
Right, so let me ask you this, and I would ask them, do you think Rishi Sunak making jokes about his colour helped kids in playgrounds around the country? Or young people subjected to racism on a daily basis, only to be told it's just banter?
I think some would say
all of the policies that Sunak came out with, demonising people of colour, demonising people from cultures of the poorest in our society, helped people? Do you think when he talked in the hustings about taking money away from poor people to give it to better off people, it helped those sort of people who said, oh, but it's all right, he's brown, he's progressive?
But yes. I think aside from everything he says, for a lot of the people who are in this country who have recently come from countries in South Asia, or for all the small children who don't really gravitate towards the details of politics, but whose parents could say, look,
the optics.
There you go. If you one day want to reach the highest office of this country, you can do it. And I'm just saying, I think there would have been a lot of parents who would have said to their kids, there you go, you can do it too. You can be a better Prime Minister, obviously, but you can do it too. But also, I think for a lot of those parents, remember, they lived in a country where they never thought it was even possible. So at least Rishi Sunak, the least he's shown them is that it's possible.
No, it's possible if you sell your principles out and you'd agree to demonise people who look like you. Then it is possible.
And it's awkward because we haven't got a British Asian here with us to kind of really tell us how they feel.
No, but we can talk about Kemi and we can talk about...
But I think what Hugh's saying is, I actually agree with that. I think there will be some British Asians that would say all the things you listed are true and valid and happen and are foul and abhorrent. But they would also say, well, my son or my daughter, who's a British Asian, could do better, could get to the highest land in the highest office in the land and not be mean and not be cruel. But it's doable.
Yeah. But it's not. That's the whole point. Within the Tory party,
maybe it's not
possible.
But I think a lot of British Asians would say, I think my child could be.
Why is it not possible?
All right,
why couldn't Labour have an South Asian leader and be elected?
For that to happen, that could happen. But if you think about the last election, how many new black young MPs, male MPs, fought the last election for Labour?
I don't know how many, but it wasn't many, was it?
You don't have to win the election.
No, but the point is that you have to have a chance. You have to have a pathway, a way in. And that was one of the criticism that you could level at Labour. So this isn't just a Tory problem. The fact is that politics right now doesn't appeal to younger people. It doesn't even have a way in for younger people if you are male and a Labour supporter. And the second thing is, and you know, it's not going to be helped by the fact that Keir Starmer was in a right-wing publication talking, basically playing to the right-wing base by saying that immigration had to be controlled and there were too many people Bangladeshis coming into this country, and Jonathan Ashworth was saying the same thing as well. How does that help to people to be inspired to wanting to represent the party? And then the second thing you have to say is that if you look at most of the people who have held high office in the Tory party, South Asian people, Priti Patel, Rishi Sunak, people who have been prepared to Suella Braverman, to demonize people of colour, their own, in this country. And they use this whole thing, just because I'm brown doesn't mean I need to think the same as you. But the history of brown people in this country is a history of trauma, of pain, of demonization. Yes, there have been one or two successes, but almost all of them have been against the odds.
But where the Tory party sits now, they might not always sit. So if you've got a 15-year-old at home, you can say in 25 years, you can lead this party into a better place, in this country into a better place. But you can do that. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that I think would be important about Sunak being the Prime Minister if you're from South Asian communities.
Agree to disagree.
Is that you're just saying
diversity is not about optics.
Well, wasn't that the whole Obama thing? You say that, but when Obama became president, maybe not you, but a lot of black people said, "Oh, so there's hope that a black man, might see a black woman, biracial woman. You can be the most important figure on the planet."
But the difference between
now, whether you agree with Obama's politics or not is a different discussion. But I think, again, what Hugh's saying is that I don't think you can avoid the idea that just having a South Asian prime minister or a black man as the president of the United States, that to many people does mean something, even if their politics are foul.
No, because I think with Obama, he wanted to make life better for other people who were black or brown, and I think you were inspired by
British Asians on the right say the same about Sunak. We're saying that because he's black. There'll be British Asians that would say, "Well, I believed in Sunak's policies. He was trying to make the UK a better place for brown and black people."
Yeah, but as far as Sunak was concerned, he was trying to make life, and not the UK, life better for a certain section of our society. Obama wanted to make life better for everybody.
Says we. But there'll be people in America that would say
they would do. But we can only go on what we see from this side of the Atlantic. And I think, just one last point on this, I think even now people look at Obama and his wife as inspirational figures.
No,
people who...
There are many black people that think that Obama's time was detrimental to many black people.
Okay, and I would accept that. That's not... But my point is that if you look at the people that you are putting up as an inspiration in the Tory party, there is not one part of them, not one part of their time in office, not one part of the things that they've said that have made life better for the ordinary person in this country.
So you wouldn't find anything inspirational or maybe aspirational about James Cleverly becoming the leader of the Conservative Party or Kemi Badenoch becoming the leader of the Conservative Party? You know their stories a little bit. One has a military background. The other one, obviously, born and raised in Nigeria, has come here. There's no level.
The other one, born and raised in Nigeria, has come here and basically said, "Let's close off all the routes to people born and raised in Nigeria."
No, but do you not see that there's anything inspirational or aspirational in either of those people becoming the leader of the Tories?
No, and I'm intransigent about it because I always tell my kids, stand up for what you believe in.
I don't even know what it means, but.
I do, but I think you used the wrong. I think you used the wrong
no,
word.
I am. I'm very stubborn about this.
Okay.
I am.
Thank you.
Sorry. Edit that bit out.
This is a high level podcast.
No. We need that in. We need that in.
Definitely stay in.
Yeah, most people, we don't know what that means.
But I am stubborn about it because I have teenage kids, and they say to them, stand up for what you believe in. Try to make life better for other people. You might not always get it right. You might get it wrong, but have your heart in the right place.
You're missing the point. That's what Kemi Badenoch may say. She may say, I'm standing up for what I believe in. I'm doing the best for what I think is the country. We disagree with her politics, but what you're saying is for me missing the point. Everything you're saying, you say to your kids, she might be saying the same thing to herself. That's what she might be saying. I'm standing up for British people. I'm standing up for black people. She's not standing up for me, but there'll be black people that would say, they'll vote. She'll get black votes.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I do think. Just
hold on. Tell me how she might be standing up for black people.
No. She's not standing up for black people that I know.
Or Asian people. No, all right. Okay. Not that you know, but tell me how. Tell me what she has said or done that she might construe as standing up
Right.
for black
Okay.
or
So there
Asian
will be,
people.
I'm sure, some black British people, some British Asians that will say, "I agree with closing the borders because we can't, we can't thrive in this country if we let more of those brown and black people in. That they're suppressing wages, they're taking up time in the NHS. I can't get a doctor's appointment." There'll be black people that will say that.
Do you know anyone who feels that way?
I know one person who feels that way. Actually,
One person.
No, but that's
So you've based that.
No, there are.
Person.
Sorry,
Do
there
you
are
know
people
anyone who
that
feels that way?
Many.
You know a lot of people
There are many.
who feel
There
that.
are many black and Asian Conservative Party voters who do agree with their points on immigration. They get it because they've come from immigrant families and they're like, why would I say this? But the reality is they listen to all of the stories, they read the same media as we do, and they're hearing, well, the reason that I can't get a doctor's appointment is because too many people are coming, and they're hearing that my child's opportunities for education are limited or work are limited because they're only human beings. They're taking in the same information. They read the Daily Mail or whatever, and they come to the same belief system. It's not a racial thing.
It's been quite fascinating to look at a cabal of chaotic characters all trying to put forward insane policies to alienate large parts of the electorate, from Kemi Badenoch saying that maternity pay is too high, to Robert Jenrick finding different ways to say we don't want any brown people in this country. The nonsense around English values, you ask him what English values are, he can't tell you. Kemi Badenoch talking about hierarchies of cultures and some cultures are superior to others. This is right-wing, racist, let's call it what it is, rhetoric designed to appeal to the least tolerant in our society, a fraction of the country, because all of us know people, work with people, are friends with people who embrace different cultures, different races, different sections of our society. And all I can say looking at this entire caboodle is thank goodness they're no longer still in power. They don't have a clue what they're doing. Well, actually, they do know what they're doing. They're trying to use fear, anxiety, animosity, division to drive a wedge between large parts of our society. They're dangerous, they're unhinged. I use those words advisedly because none of this is a laughing matter. A lot of their rhetoric is what led to people being attacked in the summer and to the kind of scenes we saw across the country before people came together and said, not in our name. You've got Liz Truss, whose understanding of economy is just, you just can't, exactly, you can only be wide-eyed in disbelief at some of the kind of things that she's saying. And the fascinating aspect of the Tory party conference is that you look at each individual, dull James Cleverly, he'll say anything you want him to say. It's remarkable that he was ever Foreign Secretary. And the ultimate thing to say, which has been said before, but it's worth saying again about both James Cleverly and Kemi Badenoch in particular, they will espouse racist right-wing policy in order to make themselves palatable to the hard right of the Tory party. Thank goodness they're not in power anymore. Thank goodness they're a sideshow compared to the people who are actually running the country.
But the thing is,
there can be no thing is about the racism they're trying to use. To set the country
I agree
on
with
fire again.
I agree with everything that you've said. But I was going to say that the thing about it is, we've seen even with the riots this summer, but and for many years now, the kind of potency of that tonic of culture wars, of the divisiveness, and you wonder what it might mean for the country, because we say thank God they're not in power, but the leader of the opposition is the person that goes in there and pokes holes in the policies of the leading party, right? Who says, actually what you're doing is wrong, we would do this. I get it, it's nowhere near an election. So actually what you try and do for the most part is actually just, these policies are wrong for X, Y, and Z reason. So all of those debates, all of the Prime Minister's questions, and all of the interviews for whoever wins, if it is one of the more right-leaning leaders, will be essentially, and will make the conversation around British politics It will be embedded in those culture wars, you know. And so whether they're in power or not, if our entire political landscape is the culture war, and that is stoked for 4 years, and that is a constant conversation up until the next election, that can't be good for the country. So that's why I don't believe I was going to say I don't believe a Tory right party is electable, but they've won before. So
well, but you have to remember, the country didn't elect the hard right country the hard right party that the Tories became.
They're already in.
They were already in when they lurched to the right. I think the point you're making about what they represent as an alternative to government is valid, but at the same time, it just makes it all the more incumbent on the government to get their policies right, to listen to the country so that people don't feel disenfranchised. But in terms of an alternative, they're doing very much the same as reform. They're trying to appeal to people who don't look at the detail, read the small print, the people who are prepared to listen to something if it sounds bonkers, the people who think that the EU want to ban bananas if they're too bendy, you know, that kind of nonsensical.
But the thing is, the immigration's a big thing. All of them are talking about immigration in some way.
Immigration has been a big thing for 50 years. People have been talking about immigration. I remember Mrs. Thatcher in the late 70s talking about we must keep this under review. The National Front have been talking about it. We know this. Your parents, my parents, or, you know, we saw the flyers back in the day. You know, do you want your family living next door to a black person? Change that now to a Muslim person, or, you know, whatever. We've seen it all in different guises over the last 5 decades. But what we need is policy that speaks to everyone around the country. If the government can deliver that, then the Tories and Reform can scream into the wilderness. It's incumbent on the government to listen to the country.
But this is the point. I don't think the Tories are screaming into the wilderness. They're supported by millions of people. It's just whether those millions of people, even some who went to vote Labour in the last election, decide that they hear something strong enough to bring them back to vote for the Tories. You know, this is the party of power in this country over the last 100 years, 2/3 of the time. So this is what I mean. If the Tory party is to move to the right, I don't know. I don't know if what our conversation is like over the next 4 years, it makes us like America. And it's just you're either in that camp or you're in that camp. And whether it becomes like a 50-50 over the next 4 years based on the culture wars. They've already admitted that's all they've got. So that's what I mean. I think if the membership elects someone who is to the hard right, and what we end up with is Labour, centre right versus hard right, what does that mean for the country?
Just the last thing from me on this. I think the Tories are pushing this immigration issue, they're pushing this hard right agenda and all these culture wars, as you say. But most people, what are they most concerned about? The cost of living crisis, the NHS, their schools, their roads. There are so many everyday things that people are more concerned about. How do we know? Look at the polling, look at the numbers, look at the statistics. It is, I don't see it to be true that all people are concerned about is immigration. And if we want to talk about immigration, as we know, the Tories basically changed the rules so that there were no legal routes to come into this country. They made it illegal by default. So there were all sorts of mechanisms the hard right Tories created so that they could demonize people that other people otherwise would see as our colleagues, our friends, and live in harmony with.
That will be an interesting policy, because if we do get more people who can apply to come into the country, the rhetoric will be Labour opened the floodgates. They allowed these people to apply to come here legally, and now they've got settled status or whatever it might be.
I think if you look at the numbers, you'll find that the Tories actually allowed more people to come in.
I know, but I'm talking about the rhetoric. Like you said, these people aren't looking for facts. You know, they'll be looking for Labour created a law which allowed people to come to the country. So when the numbers inevitably come out of net migration and the usual people will be arguing, see, it's too many, oh, it's too many, oh, it's too many. This time around, they can say, not only did you not stop the boats, but you actually allowed these people to come here.
I think we just have to be very careful not to create and foment this conversation that continues to, because we can criticise the Tories for having this debate and having these culture wars, but then we inadvertently continue it by dwelling on it. Does that make sense?
But we're not talking about the issue itself. We're talking about politics around it, and whether one of these people, if one of these to the more hard right wins the Tory leadership election, this will be a central focal point of who the Tory party is over the next 4 years.
But if the Labour Party, if the Labour government get their policy right and they listen to the people who feel alienated, who feel disenfranchised, who feel they don't have enough money in their pocket, then as much as the hard right of the Tories shout and scream, they won't get an opportunity to put their ideology into action.
I think, just briefly for me, to your initial question, I don't think they're electable, but not because of the policies that they're probably going to push forward. I think they're not they won't be electable in the end, because I think we're in this personality politics era now where they don't have, none of these four people scream charisma or personality, and that for me is not that important.
Nor does Keir Starmer.
True, but I think the Tories went so far wrong. I think it was anyone but the Tories. He kind of got in by default. Kemi is seen as the future of a modern day Tory party. A woman, she's black, and she's like doubling down on her hard right views. Tom Tugendhat is seen as an adult, someone that is a safe pair of hands. James Cleverly is seen as style of a substance. I don't think he's ever said anything that I've ever thought to myself, that's mildly interesting. He looks very, very kind of ministerial, very, very proper, but there's nothing behind him. And that's what I hear from a lot of people who are supporters of the Tory party. And Robert Jenrick is seen as a bit of a walking time bomb. Like, again, people I know who support the party, and I watch a bit of right-wing media, they're fearful that he's just someone that's going to just have gaff after gaff after gaff, right? So none of these people, for me, as someone that doesn't vote for the party, are people that I think, to your point, if Keir Starmer handles business, should be a threat. But a lot of the media in this country is dominated by the right, and they will be pushing and nitpicking at everything. They're doing already. Anything Keir Starmer does, and I'm no Keir Starmer fan, I'm not, but they are nitpicking at any little thing now to line it up for whoever wins this race to be the next prime minister after one term. I think the media is going to play a major role.
No, you mean we?
Well, okay. Sorry, the right wing media are going to play a major role in not only who wins this race, but more importantly, whether that person, whoever the four is going to be, ends up in power. I think whoever wins this race will be looking to. The fight they have really isn't even Keir Starmer. It's against Nigel Farage. It's how do we win back those people that have gone to reform, that we need to win, that we need to bring back. Badenoch is probably the obvious example of someone who's best placed to do that.